What's up, IP friends? So, if you are a Comic Con fan, or you are an anime fan, or a manga fan, or you are into cosplay, fan art, merchandising, then this episode was specially curated for you. I will be discussing with one of the co founders and organizers of the Port Harcourt Comic Con. We delve a little bit into intellectual property, but more into what she has been up to over the years. So you do not want to miss this episode. Check it out.
IP, IP,
IP,
IP, IP,
IP,
IP, IP, IP. Welcome to IP series, home to all things IP related, where I give you the stories, tips, and implications to business and creative decision concerning your intangible assets with real life case study. I am your host, Rita Anri Chinda. Subscribe and turn on your notification so you don't miss an episode. Cheers, guys. All right then, welcome to IP series Barida. Please kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Barida Alawa. I'm from River State, Nigeria. I'm a script writer, creative, and an event organizer. I organized an event called PH City Comic Con, and I've been doing that with my amazing team for the last 3 years now. And we've been up and running. We've been creating really wonderful things and impacting our community thus far.
Fantastic. So I met Barida during one of this entertainment related training called the Music Business. Here's Music Business Academy.
Yes.
Yeah, and we also connected because we are both PH based. Because I think most of the participants there were Lagos based, so it's kind of like everyone's looking for their kindred spirit, sort of. But you mentioned being an event organizer, amongst other things, being a screenwriter or scriptwriter. Can you tell us a little bit about the PH Comic Con? Because I know they have like a Lagos one, but it's Port Harcourt and I'm Port Harcourt. You're Port Harcourt. So let's represent. Tell us what is your event about.
Okay. So I would actually start with Comic Con in general. It's actually a convention, a pop culture convention done all over the world. So people are allowed to actually use the franchise to set up in different parts of the world and hold in their states or cities wherever they can. So for Port Harcourt, we initially started in 2020, but COVID actually made us it happened and we had to step back a bit.
Yeah.
So we kicked off in 2021 on May 29th. Yes, May 29th, 2021 on a Saturday. So we decided to start Comic Con because we sat down like, okay, we know there are persons who they are artists, illustrators, they are writers. We have all these people in this space, and how come we don't have anything that brings us all together? And it's a space where most of us or most of the persons involved are usually introverted, and they really come out, and it's not really so known down here a bit. So okay, let's all come together, let's create this, let's push this in the state, let's get persons who are involved in this to all come together. Let's show people what we can actually do, the things that can be done. Because I know that there are some persons who do like, okay, they're looking for an animator or illustrator, and back then they would always refer to persons outside, like, but there are persons here who are really, really good. They are really good persons here, but because most of them are not really in this space, so they may not know those persons who are good, but amongst their peers, you know that okay, you know this person is good, but others may not necessarily know who that person is. So Comic Con it's where persons who are talented or who want to start can actually come in. And what we're also trying to do with PACT Comic Con is for the kids, most especially, we are trying to put our focus on the kids, on the young minds, because for most of them, I don't think they've actually, like maybe on career day, for example, maybe um, you see persons who want to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, and that's awesome. But what about those who that's awesome? What about those who that's not, like that's not necessarily going to be it for
Yeah,
everybody,
career path.
and that's
Mm.
the reality of life. So what happens to those persons who guides those kids in a certain structure or in a certain way to be like, okay, this is how it can be done. And for my team, and we know that while growing up, we didn't necessarily have those things in place. So it's basically just online and okay, there are persons now who they've been able to do something. They've been able to build a career, build a life out of doing these things. And okay, let's see how we can bring those professionals to come and talk to these kids, come and show them, teach them, explain to them that okay, this is possible and this is how you can also do it. So that aside from just putting up a glamour around it, you can also still actually give steps or a process to how these persons can actually start, how they can actually be able to make money off of their arts, because they are successful for every craft. They're always the top percent, and there's always the bottom, but regardless, there's still a process to it all. And most times some of these kids need these things earlier on, so that the persons who are really, 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 really good and talented don't need to, maybe when it's time for uni or after uni, now they would have to switch into something else. And for people, and for persons who are creative, there's this frame your state of mind is for a certain period that you need to get those things out there as much as you
Mm.
can. And that's really, really important. And those things that come out those periods, they're very, very important. And if you stay too long in an environment where it's not being nurtured and it dies down, what's not being used becomes dormant and sometimes may just vanish.
You
So
just
for
lose the passion as well.
you just lose it. And for though there are persons who they are really, really good, so trying to make sure those persons who are really, really good or they want to, we can actually help nurture that and actually play a part in their journey to make sure that okay, yes, the persons from this from rather not just River States, Nigeria in general can actually have a path to follow, and at the same time to still celebrate and have fun with
Mm.
from the culture, from anime, movies, the things that we enjoy, and they've actually influenced part of
Mm.
what we create.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us a rundown of the Port Harcourt um, Comic Con industry. But I think one of the reasons why I reached out to you was the intangible assets aspect of our conversation, which will be delving into the types of IP and how Comic Con organizers need to now be aware of what intellectual property is and how they can be protected. So, judging from your experience and being a part of the PH Comic Con community, what would you say um, your knowledge that you have about IP has helped you and your team members?
Okay. I think last year we had an experience with something. My
Mm,
One of the graphics designers actually did a graphics design for the cosplay contest, and we had used a known cosplayer's picture on, and we
okay.
posted it, and the and we're actually in a lot of communities in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So we actually
Mm,
shared it to one of those communities, and the person saw that
mm-hmm.
and requested it to be taken down.
Done.
So I think
Wow.
that yes, and since it was something we were using to promote for the event, we realized that we
Yeah.
had breached upon someone
Use.
else's intellectual property, and
Mm,
since she had expressed herself that okay, she didn't want that to happen without waiting for a cease and desist to be served. We just took it down and made our apologies and moved on from that. But from that
okay.
experience now, we then decided for the graphics or things that are going to be done, we are going to use only our own property. We don't want to
Yeah.
use someone else's that we are not aware of and we don't have any agreements with you. So it means that
Mm,
we create designs from scratch for most of the
mm,
characters now that that are being used. They are being designed and created by members of my team. So
okay.
now we've actually taken into into consideration that intellectual property is very very important because as a whole Comic Con deals it has a lot of intellectual property and we can't
True
be
that.
doing an event like this and not have an understanding of what it is and also be
Mm-hmm.
in breach of someone else's hard work too. So we've also had to sit down and ask questions, read and to be aware so that at the same time we can also help to protect or give informations to persons who are in the community that okay they want to do this and they're looking for okay we know that we can direct you on who to meet or
Mm,
how to go about it, especially when you've infringed on someone else's decision that okay no this is you've infringed. It's not a matter
yeah.
of being stubborn or negligent. If that person has the legal rights, there is really no need to go fighting a lost battle. So
Mm,
just do the proper thing and take it down. Except maybe you have a counter claim that can be done properly,
interesting.
but if not, then leave it be. Because if it were vice versa, it's going to be the same thing. Because as a creative, we all know what it means for someone else to infringe or to use your work to
Yeah,
make a
without
monetary
properly
gain.
acknowledging.
So
Mm.
that
So
alone. So I would
I'll say moral lesson is everybody should do their due diligence and ensure that you're not using another person's work without their consent, which is good. Which is good.
yeah, and it helps
So,
the community to also grow
hmm.
by creating
I agree.
indigenous things.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a couple of terms. What are those terms you would usually find within the Comic Con community? Can you just like define a couple of those?
Okay. So I would say for the terms used mostly used Comic Cons, you would hear things like panel sessions, speaker sessions, exhibitors, creators, artist spotlight, artist alley, and a couple of others. For there, a whole lot of things that can actually be done in Comic Con. Well, for there are some that are not actually used all over. You can actually pick the ones that you feel you can start with and actually grow with it in your industry or in your area per se. So as not to, because not everything being done on the international scale may be able to, you may be able to replicate it back home. So you also need to look at the things that you feel that okay can actually work. Like for Artist Alley, like we do Artist Alley at PHCT Comic Con. It's a place where creatives can actually come and sell their work. The goal behind that is to have a section where it's just the artists who are going to be in that particular area, so that when the attendees, the kids, parents, fans, cosplayers, they come into the event and they go through the different areas, they can actually go into the artist alley and see what's being done, see the works, and see what's actually being displayed there. Then for the panel sessions, it's in such a way that we have industry professionals um, come and speak or come and discuss on a certain topic that we feel needs to be addressed um, in the community, and at the same time to share some insights on things that we feel that would be of great benefit to the persons attending. Then for the speaking sessions, are usually in different areas. We try to cover as much as we can, or we bring different speakers from different fields in Comic Con. We try to bring from a publisher perspective, from a creator perspective, um, and from a sponsor's perspective too, and a partner perspective, in the sense that, okay, for publishers now, they can come and speak to persons seated down listening and actually explain to them, okay, the things that they need to do to actually get published or get a publishing deal. Then, for those who are creators and are successful creators also, they can also share tips and give insights on the things that they do to help them grow and improve on their current work. Then for persons who are active, support the community, and actually want to see in the industries and businesses actually grow, you can actually come in and who are attending, you can actually see how they can actually partake in building the sector, and see how they can actually make efforts that can actually lead to a good would I say that can actually take the level of the industry or the growth of the industry from the infancy stage, because I think we are the infancy stage now.
Mm.
We're the infancy stage now, so to actually take it forward. Then we also have the anime section. The anime
Mm.
section, it's where the anime lovers can actually come, chill, their friends, have fun. They can watch anime and basically have a good time. Then we also do animation screening. the animation screenings that are being done at Comic Cons. There are creators within the community that actually produce really good and wonderful animations, and we also screen those things at Comic Con to show others what these persons they've done, what they've created, and for persons who would be interested in what they do or who would want to work or partner with them, they can also be able to reach out to those persons there. And there are movie screenings also being done too. The idea of Comic Con in general is actually to push the creative industry in the city or the state it's located. So in whatever city or state it's located, there needs to be a focus on on the sector and see how to actually improve, push, and to develop and to nurture talents also in the industry. So there may be some things that we are doing, and probably maybe another Comic Con in another state may not be doing or may also be doing, depending on what um, can actually be done within a particular city. Because for our first convention in 2021, we didn't actually do artist alley then. The idea came
Mhm.
to my partner last year, and he said, okay, let's try this and see what happens and see the impact. And we saw that, okay, artists in the community, they loved that and they wanted to do that too. So we need that, okay, this is something that can work for the traditional artists, because the way you would showcase a traditional artist is different from the way you would show a digital artist. And you also need to have a balanced skill in showcasing the different areas or the different parts of the creative industry too, and to make sure each part is given a um fair exposure and attention at the same time. And at, then at the same time too, for persons who want to sell their comics, sell their merchandise, it's a good place for those persons to actually come, because on a normal day and the rest, it's very rare for you to see up to maybe 50, 60, or less than that of comic lovers or Marvel or DC lovers, except maybe a Marvel or DC movie just came out and they are going to the cinema. Those are the rare
Mm.
cases where you can actually see those persons in large numbers. So you rarely see them come out for normal events that happen in the city or in the state. But something like Comic Con brings all those persons together. So it's a place where, if you're in the industry or you want to learn about the industry, how it works, because it's really big. It's bigger than even what I'm actually talking about. It's actually a really big thing. But you can't actually focus on everything. It's a process. So in gradually we are doing some things, see how it works. If it doesn't work, we reiterate, take it back, see how we can improve on it. Or if we get feedback and we see that this isn't working, okay, we know that we can't replicate this down here. Let's do this other thing. Let's have it a twist to it and see how that can actually work. And we
Work.
also have game developers too that are also involved too. So we are basically trying to develop all the areas to bring all
Mm.
these all these persons together. So for terms, it's basically the industry coming under one event to celebrate. So the some certain names can be either be given by us in the different parts of the event, so as not to have different names, and that becomes a problem our guests and attendees to actually identify. But they know that okay, with this comes all these other things that follows. So once
Mm.
they come to the event, then they know that okay, yes, they're expecting these different things to happen.
Okay, well, you've mentioned so many people. You've not mentioned legal. I don't know that I'm not
Sorry,
vexed, but I say you
I didn't.
mentioned every person except for legal. Why is that?
No,
Why you
no, no,
always
no,
forget
no, no, no,
legal?
no.
But you
That
have
wasn't.
you. Only you have
That
you.
wasn't.
See?
That wasn't intentional. That wasn't intentional because I think I think I don't know why that skipped my mind. Unfortunately, well,
Eh,
I'm be
my God.
the one. I'm just being honest. That it's not like we don't know. We know, but
Hmm.
probably is when maybe we've actually made a mistake that there's this jolt of oh, why did I do this? I should have just done the property. So it's okay. Like last year you were around for last year's event and you spoke. So it's also something at the same time that consciousness, and I think in this part of the world we are not, or in my opinion, I'm not so sure we take into
Think of legal.
consideration
Legal
some.
first. Legal is like
Yeah,
the last thing.
yes,
Mm.
yes, we don't necessarily. No, it depends on what exactly that person is doing. There are some certain things that you're doing that comes first, because for persons who would want to interact with you, you need to get some certain things done before that talk would actually begin. Let's say, for example, now I was doing, or we are in partnership with maybe a certain brand and the rest. We will need to, rather we have to be registered. We need to have the
Mm.
basic
A
things to be
comprehensive
recognized as an entity.
mm.
Yes, so you know that you can't even do this without being legal. So it depends on. I would say for the artists, for the business owners, that comes first because you can't actually operate without having some of these things. Or even if you do, you probably hit a roadblock
A roadblock.
that would force
Mm.
you to have to do something, rather to do
Mm.
the property than get a legal backing. And
Representation.
that's actually an area where I would say is really needed because not so many persons are aware. They are
Mm.
not aware of what they could actually make
But,
from these things, and there are some individuals or entities that can actually take advantage of these things even without the creator or the owner actually knowing that this should rather they shouldn't do this, or if they are to work with this is how they can go about it. So
protect
I would actually
themselves.
say
Yeah.
yes, because that's something that we know that a lot of
Mm.
are not actually aware, and I'm not sure most of them understand. I would say even I myself, I would say from doing Comic Con, it has exposed me to most of these things, and I have to be aware because the wrong step could cost could cost us everything what you've been building for for the
True
last
that.
3 years and the future. So every step has to be calculated. you can't do anything out of your emotions. So maybe when something is okay, is this even for artists that come to exhibit, we try to make sure you don't bring someone else's work. The work that you're to post, do you have the right to it? If you don't have the right to it, then we cannot proceed.
Sorry,
So
Dan.
that we don't. Sorry,
Can you hear me?
can you hear me? Yes, I can.
Hello.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Hello. I would say for creatives, I don't know why, to be honest. I don't know why. I think um either the excitement
Mm.
or just wanted to get things done may just get in the way of doing the proper thing. And at the same time, I also feel some persons do not know. So yes, I actually don't know, because even if I wasn't doing Comic Con or a part of Comic Con, I'm not so sure I would have been aware if maybe a younger one or a cousin actually came to ask me for advice and said, I won't be have some certain information to say, okay, if this is what you want to do, okay, contact a lawyer, have this conversation first before you even proceed to even talk about monetary payment for your work. Agree
Benefit.
on terms and conditions and see how um you want to make money from that work and and that project. If you feel that project is something that a one-time payment would be better for you, fine. And if it's something that you know it's going to be used, a work that is going to be used in perpetuity, you know that speaking to a lawyer and doing the proper thing will help you make a better deal than doing that by yourself. I don't even know if that's actually possible, because the proper thing would actually be to get a lawyer to look through your documents, advise you
Mm.
on what you need to do before even a final document is even given to you to sign at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would say I've also made some mistakes without knowing. But after starting Comic Con and this far now, I'm very hesitant to, okay, I want to do this. Okay, I'm not that okay. This document or rather now, before I even once you just give me the document, I know who I'm giving it to immediately before even consideration comes in, before I even try to, so that I don't let maybe an emotional decision, or if that person is close to me, to try to influence my decision. I know that okay, once it's read by my lawyer, I know that okay, this. then I know that I'll be able to give you an answer based on that and see how we can work around it. If you feel, oh, that's not, and we can't come to a middle ground, and I know that that can actually work because it's an agreement, it's a contract, so both
Yeah.
parties need to be in agreement. So both sides need to agree on what is fair for both parties at the same time. So I would say from making those mistakes myself, from doing Comic Con, that has made me, even anything I'm signing, anything, or even before I sign it, depending on what I'm actually signing. If it's something that, okay, for so time, I know that, okay, this is what it is. I've been trained. I know that it's for this reason. But once it involves um, something that I would create exclusively
Mm.
for you to use for something, it has to be done the right way. Even if we have a
True.
discussion, and I've actually had that experience too. And when we read some of the terms and partner, we saw that some certain things there weren't too comfortable with us, and they're like, okay, no, this doesn't seem fair, because you know that we are organizers of this event.
Event.
So I don't forget, for example, now, there's no way if my partner is involved in Comic Con and maybe this particular thing is, there are some things that would always just come up as conversations, or would have that because of the type of work we do. So to sign an agreement where um Comic Con as an entity enters into it, it's something that we saw not to be quite
Beneficial.
beneficial, because they know you didn't come to Comic Con, you came to us as individuals to use our rather to work with you. If you were to
Mm.
work with Comic Con, it's a different thing altogether. But you're coming to me as Barida Alawa, so the
Mm.
document should surround me
You as the individual.
as the individual, not the companies I work with or what I do with this. Like this is the same space, so it's really a
Mm.
tricky situation. So when I gave it, when we told him this part of the this, I know that I probably will not be able to not talk about this, because there are some agreements or some NDAs that creatives sign, and you are not allowed to actually talk
Disclose
about
certain
the
things.
disclose, share this. I said at this point now, I think that can actually I can actually uphold that clause, and rather than sign something and default later on, and that won't make any sense, because as we are also growing the industry, there are kids coming up and doing, so there are some mistakes that y- you're not allowed in a way to make, because you're also, for the young persons who are coming, the illustrators, the artists, the writers, some of them will reach out and say, oh, somebody, this, what should I do? The first thing I'm probably telling is, have you sent it to an intellectual property lawyer? Not just because if you insist on like, okay, are you sure that person can handle this? If the
Mm.
person, if not, why not give it to somebody else that is aware of all the things that surround this work? Like, okay, like some persons don't actually know that, okay, for your title, your animation, your novel, your book, your comic, a title series, a title can actually be, you can actually trademark it.
Yeah.
Some persons are not aware of that. Like even if you give someone that idea, that's actually still ownership. You can decide to actually I think have used the word actually close to 14, more than 14 times in this conversation. Regardless, some persons don't actually they don't know that even for the characters, they don't know that okay, somebody else can have a comic book called maybe the Okrika.
Actually, Barida Okrika.
No, that would actually work per se. I'm trying to look for a really good decision that may work.
Mm.
Um, the Okrika Chronicles, for example, somebody trying to trademark the Okrika Chronicles would be quite funny per se, and I think you know why, or you know why.
I'm not
It's
the
quite
one on the spot, so I'll refrain from making any side comments.
okay, no problem. But that would actually be funny because that alone, like from a legal perspective, or you be like, okay, this is going to be tricky. If you trademark this, there are ways to reach another creator. Can work around
Mm.
that. So your trademark isn't strong. So you're creating something that other persons can come and do replicas of it. And
Mm.
if it's something that has a really good story, you probably watch persons either make a mockery or have a rip off what you've created. So
Mm.
in choosing a title also is very, very important, and generic titles can't really be too owned by one person, except maybe it depends. But some creators are not aware of those things. So they may title this and wonder, oh, okay, why is this? Not knowing that, oh, even if you do not like what that person is doing, you do
Mm.
not have the legal rights to stop that person. Because
Mm.
rather, what you trademarked, have it covers this. Somebody else can still go and do Okuka Chronicles, Tales of Boma, and that goes
Mm.
and that goes
Interesting.
and it would work. Or person can still do that and the contents of the book or do Tales of Boma, then in the book, the Okuka Chronicles, and basically writes
A
everything on that.
different story.
It like and it's going to counter whatever you have created. So it's like so some persons are not actually aware of these things. So when these things happen, you would see misunderstandings. But because of lack of education on in these areas, some certain mistakes that can be avoided, unfortunately, are being made by
Mm.
both business
Creative.
owners and I've actually seen business owners do that. Even
Wow.
when some of the like, I think person asked for an advice and it's trying to that okay, if you are trying to do this, the way the comic industry works, it's not the same way. You you can be an awesome businessman and invest, but it doesn't mean all industries work the same way.
Mm.
How money is made, it's not the same in all industries. There are some things into that the business owner needs to leave some certain things for the creatives to do. What you're doing as an investor is you're bringing your expertise in certain areas and to come with the legal part of it so that for everything that is being created is being trademarked, is being copyrighted. You know that okay, as they're creating, it's being protected, it's being this. But so now maybe as a business owner, you pick a name and they're actually telling you, because if for persons who are creatives, they probably watched different movies, animation, and series. So you've probably seen some certain things play out in the last couple of years, some mistakes, some things that have gone on in the industry. So there are some things that, if you're not a fan of the industry, you may not realize how tricky it can be. Maybe you see the success of maybe Spider-Man and some certain things, and feel, yeah, that it can be replicated in Nigeria. Fine, no problem. That's awesome. But if you are creating it for this market, you need to come
Mm.
down to the grassroots. You need to know how
Yeah,
things
we need to African
work.
stories. Mm.
You need to know how things work. Get a lawyer to actually guide you to choose your names properly, the characters that you make. What are the, if it's something that it's, for example, the Rivers attire, one of the Rivers
Mm.
attire, Etibo. You can't have a
Yeah,
claim to Etibo.
over it. True that.
You
True
can't.
that.
So if you go ahead and you just, and someone else, you have no claim over that. So even
Mm.
as you invest in things like this, you still need a lawyer to tell you, okay, you can't trademark this. This is indigenous to this tribe or to this part.
Mm.
So you have to either create something unique and add something unique that hasn't been done elsewhere, that has that right to be copyrighted. Else, you just be building
Castle in
on,
the air.
yes, you just building house on the air. So sometimes too, there is also like we are facing both the creators and business owners too at the same time too, that we've seen that the education actually needs to be done on all fronts. The legal
Mm.
education needs to be done on all fronts, both the creators and the business owners in Nigeria need to be made aware of the things that can actually be done. There are some persons who they have really good characters, things that they can actually use to push, but they don't know. They're not aware of how they can actually work around it, how they can actually
Mm.
license it to advertisers, to brands, to actually make good use of it and have good returns. So some business owners are now aware. Same
Mm-hmm.
with creators. And that's why, like I said, Comic Con has actually opened my eyes with
Mm.
experiences, meeting different persons, and at each point, we try to make sure we listen to what we are being told, the advice we are being given, so that
Mm.
some avoidable mistakes that can be avoided without having any legal
Implication.
serious implications can be, because at the same time
Mm.
you need to make sure it's not you as an individual that is being sued as well. It has to be the entity. And for some
Mm.
creatives, they don't know that they can
No,
actually
but
sorry.
sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes it's just strategy.
I think
Mm.
I just realized that I actually have an understanding of it, but from
A
experience
different
based.
person.
No,
Oh,
from
okay.
experience based, where it wasn't necessarily me, it was
Mm.
someone else, and it had to be, it was, I think I was copied in that later. So we had to find a way to settle it on both ends, since it wasn't um I as a person wasn't I wasn't the one defaulting, but I needed to make sure at the same time too, since it was sent to the entity,
Mm-hmm.
it was sent to the entity and copied through me, then to the person it was directed at. We all had to
Mm.
come together to say, okay, how can we settle this and move forward? So I think I learned that this year through experience. But I wish I had known that earlier without having to learn the hard way.
Interesting.
So it
So,
has also been us now for the persons, the creators. There are some questions, there are documents that now we can't afford to be careless or negligent, because one action alone is enough to ruin years of hard work
true
and things
that.
that are being built. So legally now, for every step, I think for everything that's been done now, I have a sit back, or like maybe I take a day and we think this line of action, would there be legal repercussions? If they are, they need to be settled first
Mm,
before any further conversation is had, so that the entity is not liable, and at the same time too, I'm also not liable too. So I'm having to think on the spot for things that happen, issues, conflicts that happen. That sit
mhm.
back now need it's. I think this third year really brought that into perspective, that the legal side of it, it's can either make or crumble it.
True.
It can either make or crumble it. And I almost had that experience where it's this year that's almost happened. So I realized that okay, this needs to be taken very, very seriously, because we're also doing
Mm,
something serious too. So we need to do the proper things. We need to make sure we're getting things right, and we are building a path or a building that persons can follow through.
me too.
They can, because we know that like Comic Con International is over 30 years. Yeah, it's
Mm,
over 30 years. So you know that this is something that can be passed down. And for something you want
yeah.
to be passed down,
Mm,
means you have to build structure. You need to have different parts working. You can't just wing it. So you have to sit down, do things properly, register bank accounts, your team. You need to get things done properly and legally, because if you don't, you can actually have a huge success on something, and you have a court case or a copyright case that would have you remit everything that has been made off of that work through the platform or through the event, and
mhm.
that can demoralize um, someone's spirit, especially when a lot of hard work has been put into it and it was actualized, but a mistake of okay, you used someone else's copyright without informing that
The person.
individual, and getting
Mm,
a written and signed legal document that wasn't done, then that gives way for cease and desist, um, copyright claim to happen. So I think the entirety of Comic Con has to do with copyright. It's an industry that I think the legal aspects of it should be front and center.
thank you. You have finally said it. Oh my god. Uh,
Should be front and center.
so, um, so in all of these things now, if you were to advise, um, say another Comic Con organizers, what are the tips you share with them on how to manage their intellectual property aspect in terms of registering their IPs, creating a licensing model, and also while collaborating with IP owners and experts within the industry?
Okay, I would say first thing is try to get the lawyer first,
Yes.
yeah, so that before you start um creating some certain things, have things explained to you,
Mm,
have examples of copyright explained to you, things that can be copyrighted, so that as you begin to create and as you begin to organize, you know that um you you could, like, okay, for a Comic Con to start, for example, now they would need to design either a logo or a symbol that can be used to signify their presence. And a creator now can create something really unique and that has something to that showcases the culture.
mm,
And a lawyer can actually tell you, okay, you need to trademark this before you start going in deep, so that you don't have someone else look at that your logo and just have a rip off of it and uses it in different forms or materials. So that then even the names that you choose for your events also matters. For the things, for the different sections and segments, you also need to be aware and be careful so as not to use terms that doesn't belong to you and someone can have can have a claim to it. You try to use some generic things that you know is applicable, can be used by anyone. Then for your images, what you use for your graphics design, for your videos, to not be carried away. The design can be awesome. You may get away with it for a year or two, but as you build and as you grow, it would fire back on you. So to avoid those things from happening in the nearest future and costing you money, don't even do it in the first place. Create your own designs, create things that are unique to you. You know how to create, you know how to direct the creation. So direct the designers and the creators on what to do. Then
mm,
another thing would be for the artists that are going to exhibit, like for PFCT Comic Con, we ask them to send digital copies of what they want to exhibit so that we can have a look at what's being exhibited and know that okay, these things that are being sent to us, they are owned by you and you alone, and we make sure that it doesn't leave Comic Con as a company or an event. We don't give it to someone else. It's between the artist and Comic Con. So we know that we are not using it without um, the permission of that artist or creator. So that before they exhibit, they don't come and exhibit someone else's work. I've seen a situation whereby someone else's work was being sold or something, and for I think the person is quite known online. So some persons could actually okay, that didn't actually happen at PACT Comic Con. We saw it happen
mm.
at something else. So
Okay.
we were like this person is ripping off this artist, this artist doesn't know. We were expecting at the back of our mind for those of us that were creative, we were like, did the organizers their due diligence. They should have somebody assigned that scrutinizes or that screens all these things passing through and being sold, especially when the artistic works. You just can't let somebody display something that isn't theirs. And on that matter, it was a traditional art, and in traditional art, for artists, there are ways they sign and show ownership on their piece.
Okay. Okay.
So even with that too, an artist, you would know their signature, you would know this is how they sign all their pieces. Anything coming from them, you know this is how it is. And if they want somebody maybe to sell it on their behalf, they pre-inform me that this is the person who is going to sell those things on their behalf. So when we saw that, we're like, okay, due diligence was not done,
Carried
and that
on.
wasn't fair, because that person probably thought that the owner of that work didn't know that he was being ripped off down here. He didn't know that, but nonetheless, that's one of the things that need to be looked out for. Then for the animations that are being given to you, you also need to be careful that you do not share some of those videos or those contents without the permission of the creators, because for some of those creators, some of them may submit an unfinished work. I may not want that to be shown outside Comic Con or to be given to any individual without their permission and without due compensation. So we know that, okay, even if that person loves what's being shown, but you still can't get it. So you need to make sure that you're also adhering to the creatives and you're conscious of their intellectual property, and make sure you as an organizer, you are not infringing on their rights, and to also not use their works outside that year's event. If you would want to, you would obviously need to come in contact with those creators and get the permission from them before proceeding to do that. And yes, then to also be, I think like earlier this year, somebody made a video with our logo, and that wasn't shown to the team, to anybody on the team. And when we saw that, we are like, oh, okay, this wasn't, that this is wrong. We agreed on something, but nonetheless, before you use someone else's logo, because even as an event organizer, you'll be giving logos, you'll be giving copyright items by different persons, different entities. So you really need to be careful that you do not use it outside the terms and conditions you have signed and you have agreed with those parties and entities. And also try to ensure that each individual or company or entity or party is comfortable with how their logo is being placed or being used. We've had a situation where we worked with a certain brand, and the way we place the logo, they're like, no, that's not how it should be placed, or the color, it needs to be in this way, because this is how they appear everywhere. So you also need to be conscious of that, so that you don't be in breach of a contract or a partnership or a sponsorship you signed with a third party. And to also make sure that your intellectual properties are not used without your permission, especially if maybe for the way you release your materials, you have a certain way you place your logo, or you want persons to view your brand. If somebody else uses your logo without your permission, you already know that that's already a violation. Depending on how it was done, if it was a partnership, you know that it's something that can be addressed. If it's not that the other party is not listening, then you take it up legally and the you do the proper thing, because as you build your event, some certain things in your event begin to grow as your intellectual properties. So you need to make sure they're protected and they are not used by any entity without your approval. At least before maybe a graphics or a certain thing goes out, you can send it to all parties involved to make sure everybody is okay with how it's being used, how it's being placed, so that you don't get a cease and desist to stop using this, even when you've had a prior agreement to it. But if maybe they've explained to you that no, to use this, you have to use it in this way and in this format. So you need to also listen. You need to be aware of the things that can be avoided, the issues that can be avoided, and it's a visual and audio industry. So really being sensitive to the things in the space is really, really important. How they appear, how it sounds, all need to be taken into consideration.
So I think we'll be wrapping up in a bit. I'll just get like your concluding statements, and let's see now. How you also advise, I think you already touched on that, on how to prevent and detect um, IP violation in terms of screening your exhibitors, having policies and monitoring the use of your work. So, in wrapping up our conversation, as a Comic Con event organizer and also as a script writer, what would you say are the benefits of IP to you, and are there trends you've noticed within Nigeria, within in the Comic Con industry, and what are the expectations for 2024?
Before,
Yeah.
okay, I would say one of the things that, as an organizer and a script writer, that could be beneficial to, I would start with Comic Con. For an organizer or an entity, you could, the symbols, the things you create, the characters,
Mm,
those are copyrights, those are trademarks, those are things that can serve as long-term assets to the company, and and yeah, they can serve as assets and really be beneficial to the persons who have been building it, and the value that can be created around it. And it can also serve as something that can be known nationwide, not just the city. For example, the Superman logo or the Batman logo, we all know it's known worldwide. So imagine your logo or a character that has been created and has been pushed and has been developed, and it's now at the national or international level. You can only imagine what that means for the creators and the persons involved. You know that that's going to serve as a moral booster and also help to grow the economy and the persons involved. Then
okay, fantastic. What about for Comic Con, Port Harcourt Comic Con, and then are there like available funding, support from, because you talked about support from the industry, but what about support from governments and generally?
um Rita, no vex make I talk truth or make I lie for that side. He had that. But eh, I don't know. As for the song,
Mm.
okay, let me try and answer it in a technical way that I won't throw stone at anybody
Anybody.
or entity. Okay.
So,
Okay, so for next year, for next year for PLCT Comic Con, it's going to be
mm,
better, more organized, more collaborations, more
mm,
partnerships. As for funding, currently we are open to funding because for a while now, es- um, es- except last year. Last year um, we had the shell. Hey, that yeah, this thing is long. Your name, this thing is long. Okay.
okay.
Um, we had a sponsorship from Shell,
Okay.
and they were
Huge.
able to. Yes, they supported us in making 2022 PSCT Comic Con to happen on a really good scale.
Mm,
Um, that particular sponsorship, we've actually been trapping, trying to grow the Comic Con
mm,
where it also begins to fund itself. But for every business, normally that capital then is needed to let it build off of it and begin to function um, properly and on its own as an entity to be able to support even the young creatives, because we can actually do things within the community that can help
yeah.
impact and be of great help to both the artists and the creators who need support in any way possible. But at the same time, we are also still growing, so we've not been able to do some certain things. But in the future, we hope to do that. And I would say for the government, we've had good government interactions so far in the sense that there's been an interest. We've gotten some advice on and encouragement in what we're doing, and we are grateful for that. And we hope that next year and the years to come, we have more involvement from the private sector, from the from
Mm,
investors, and for stakeholders who would want to see the industry and the state and the country grow.
okay. Thank you. So, thank you, Varida, for sharing your practical insight and industry knowledge with us today on IP series. I had a wonderful time talking to you and getting into your space. Still putting myself out there that I did for now before I go live on that for Port Harcourt.
No, no, no. Are you? No, no, no. Ah, like for
But
almost every day, I should say, you want to go meet lawyer so that you not come and tell me I did not tell you. Nah, I've told you. I think for most of them, and what's even most of them is they don't. I would say they don't have the money to. But I should tell them, you want consultation, you know, want pay, but you never ready. Later, yes, now. I told them, well, you go to bar and go and drink this thing. So it means you have that money. Spend it if you want to
no
do
be small.
something off of your well, you can no nah. Everybody has to eat.
Hmm.
Everybody has
So
to eat.
thank you for coming in once again. I hope you had a great time like I did. Hoping that we have more of this conversation in future. And yeah, it's a wrap
Yeah.
for us here.
Thank you. Thank you. I had an awesome time. I had an awesome time.
I'm happy
Gosh.
to hear that. Thank you.
So I hope with these few points that Barida has shared with us today, my IP friends who are Comic Con enthusiasts and who may be having interest to delve into this franchise of more than 30 years have taken practical tips from her. As always, please like, share, subscribe to IPSERIES on any of the platforms. You're currently listening to the second episode of the 2023 Christmas edition. Stay tuned for more episodes and happy holiday, IP friends!